worship. Next we move on to At-Tawakkul, which is reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so what is the evidence of Tawakkul? We see Allah says in the Quran, وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَتَوَكَّلُوا إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَتَوَكَّلُوا إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. And likewise Allah says, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. The explanation of the first one, that rely upon Allah if indeed you are believers. Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah 5, verse 23. The second verse, whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Surah At-Talaq, Surah 65, verse 3. So again, first of all, what is the proof? It is from worship. Allah has clearly, He's commanded At-Tawakkul. So this is very clear. Allah would never command something which He does not love and is not pleased with. So this is a proof, therefore, that it is from ibadah. That's the first thing. Secondly, the meaning of tawakkul. What is the meaning of tawakkul? There's different ways we can explain it. What this means is that a person truthfully leaves something, leaves an affair to Allah, whilst depending upon Him and keeping his heart attached to Him, whilst at the same time using all of the ways and means that have been legislated from the ways and means, and then leaving the affair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the definition of tawakkul. It consists basically of two or three things. Right, so Sheikh Salih al-Shaykhi, he gives a good breakdown of this. He says a tawakkul is two things, or in fact there are three things really. First of all, tafweedul amri ilallahi jalla wa ala. Number one, that you consign and leave the affair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You in your heart, you leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the sense that you know that ultimately it is only Allah who is in control of everything. So your heart resigns to that fact. Your heart is aware of that fact and it leaves everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly, that after using the ways and the means, that you've taken the ways and the means, you then do not look at the ways and means as if they independently will get you what you want. So there are three things. Now to explain that, it's best really to give an example. It's best to give an example. An example here is that imagine you are traveling in a car, right? So you're going to travel in a car, and obviously you want to be safe in the car. So what you do is you take all of the ways and means. So from the ways and means would be that you check the car's oil, you check the car's the water, you check the tires are inflated to the right amount, you check that you have a spare tire, you check, when you travel, you check that your indicators are working properly. As you're traveling, you put the seatbelts on, you put the seatbelts on your kids, you get a child safety seat. All of these are from the asbab. These are the ways and means that you use to ensure that you are safe. Right? So what have you done? Number one, so first of all, you've used all of the ways and means that are available to you to ensure that you are safe. Once you've taken all of the ways and means and you've done all that you can, you then in your heart, you leave it entirely to Allah, because you've done everything that you can. There's nothing more that you can do now, apart from obviously drive safely and follow the code and everything else. So now as you're doing this, your heart resigns to the fact that I'm going to leave this entirely now to Allah, because Allah, it's in Allah's hands whether I'm safe or not. Right? Then as you're driving and you finished your journey and you've got to where you got to, right? You never look back and you think, right, it was because I took all those ways and means. It was because I checked my tires. It was because I checked the water and the oil and whatever else. It was because that I didn't get harmed. Because now what you're doing is you are treating the ways and means as the source of you being safe, when it is in fact Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who was the source of you being safe. So three things. You take the ways and means, the asbab, you adopt all the ways and means, then you leave the affair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then thirdly, you don't look to the ways and means as if the ways and the means independently in themselves are the ones that will bring you, whatever it is that you're seeking. Similar example is when, another example that's often given that the Shaykh gives is when a person wants to have a child. So obviously there's the ways and means of having a child, which is to have marital relations. But it doesn't mean that just because when you have marital relations that will automatically result in a child. There are other things which are completely outside of your control, which are only in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will lead to the outcome of you having a child. So you take the ways and means, then you leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you don't at one moment think that it is the ways and means in and of themselves that will grant you a child. Rather, there are other things which are in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which will ultimately determine what the outcome is. So this is the meaning, and this is actually the definition of tawakkul. So it is, we'll go through it again. That first of all, that you take the ways and the means, the asbab, you act upon them. It is from stupidity not to act upon the asbab. Like when someone says, I'm going to drive in a car and my indicator is not working or whatever, I'm just going to have tawakkul upon Allah. My tyre is flat and my indicator is not working, and I'm not going to wear a seatbelt, and the oil's half empty, whatever. This is stupidity. A person in that situation to think, well, tawakkul in Allah is just to leave it to Allah, Allah will protect me. This is a person who is stupid. This is like a person who says, who sits in his house on his sofa, and he says, I'm making tawakkul upon Allah, He's going to feed me. Right? So he doesn't go out, work, or whatever, and he thinks, well, it's tawakkul upon Allah is going to feed me and my children. This is a person who's lost his mind and his intellect. This is stupidity. So, first of all, you act upon the asbab. There are asbab that Allah has put within the creation, ways and means, which are halal, which are Allah's legislated. You must take them. And then secondly, once you've taken all the ways and means in your heart, because remember, tawakkul is an act of worship which is in the heart. Tawakkul is a feeling in the heart. This is tawakkul. So the tawakkul part of it is that when you leave, after you've taken the asbab, the ways and means, you leave everything in the hands of Allah. In the sense that your heart knows and feels that ultimately Allah is the one who controls everything, He determines the outcome, and so on and so forth. And then thirdly, when you've taken the ways and means, you don't start looking at the ways and means and think that those in and of themselves will grant you what it is that you were seeking for. Right? So these are the aspects these are the three parts that make up At-Tawakkul. And what we'll do inshallah ta'ala is that we'll expand upon this in the next lesson, because there's quite a bit more to go through on this. Well, in fact, there's not. Actually, inshallah, we'll finish this off. Yeah. So tawakkul then upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The evidence for this, we said, وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَتَوَكَّلُوا إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Upon Allah place your trust if you are indeed believers. So we can see that Allah has commanded at-tawakkul, and He's also described it as a quality of the believers, and He's also mentioned it as a form of praise, that whoever relies upon Allah, Allah will be sufficient for him. From all of these different ways that tawakkul has been mentioned in the Quran, it is clear that tawakkul is an act of ibadah. Right? It comes under that definition of whatever Allah loves and is pleased with, and so therefore to direct this type of tawakkul to other than Allah is therefore shirk. And the Shaykh then makes a little clarification here, is that something that we shouldn't confuse with the tawakkul which is worship. There's a type of tawakkul, but this is called a tawkeel. It's not really tawakkul, but it's a tawkeel. This means that when you delegate something, or it's like when you delegate something or you have a representative. So for example, you say, for example, I've entrusted my affair to such and such, meaning that you've delegated him for a certain task. Right? So an example would be, let's say, I've given my car into, repair, and I've entrusted my car to so and so. It's in his custody. He's going to look after it. So basically, what I'm saying here is that I'm relying upon so and so to deal with this matter or deal with this affair. This type of, it's not tawakkul. It's called a tawkeel. It's a different subject area, and so what the Shaykh says that we shouldn't confuse between this subject and that subject, because one is worship in the sense that we are discussing of here, and the other one isn't worship. It's something else. So the Shaykh is just saying that we need to make this tafsir, we need to make this clarification. So again, that we don't make the wrong rulings on situations. We have to be very clear that when we look at tawheed, and when it comes to passing rulings upon people or passing rulings upon scenarios or situations, that we always make all of these distinctions, so that we don't make the wrong rulings, especially on the subject of Tawheed. So this is what the Shaykh more or less says on the subject, and so with that we can close today's lesson, inshallah ta'ala. So we've looked at ad-du'a, we've looked at the definition of ad-du'a, the two types of du'a, and what is the proof that it is from worship. And likewise we looked at the arkan, or some of the arkan of ibadah, which is fear and hope, and likewise at-tawakkul. And so in the next lesson we'll continue and look at some of the other forms of worship, inshallah ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.